Revel Mr. History, brought to you in part by Dixie Gun Works in Union City, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Rick Revel, author of In the Hills of Tennessee, Civil War novel about Jack Henson. Some of my storyline takes place in a region known as the land between the lakes. A good portion of that region is in Stewart County, Tennessee. I've been asked by Stewart County Tourism to show you what our neck of the woods is like and what makes it some kind of special. Here at the 1850s home place, you get a chance to go back in time and see what it's like for farmers such as Jack Henson and see how they chiseled out their living in the hills of Tennessee. So join me now for a quick tour of the 1850s home place. Things I like about the home place is the authenticity. The little cabin, this is either could be a cabin for one of the children, the landowner, could be a place for the workers to stay. But what I like about it is, you know, not everything has nails. There's some nails here, but there's a lot of the pegs, where they use the pegs and then use the dovetail system on the logs. That's what I like about it, is the authenticity. Even the stonework for the steps would be very much similar to what had been done like in that period with local stone. So the nails here, they'd be more like the square nail. There were nail factories back then, believe it or not, one in Nashville called the Carroll Factory. So very possibly were made local or made in Nashville, Tennessee. So authenticity, it's here at the home place. We all have heard of Abraham Lincoln. He was a rail splitter. This is what he was a rail splitter for. Making split rail fences. Cumbersome job, a lot of labor to it. The farm here at the home place, it's covered these split rail fences. One of the most beautiful things you'll ever see is a picturesque landscape. Some people call it picket fence, but it's a split rail fence. In the South, cotton was king for a long time. But here in Stewart County, didn't have a lot of cotton. Matter of fact, I think corn was king, and then right behind it was tobacco. This is a tobacco barn and a tobacco field right behind me here at the home place. We're here at the tool shed, and you see what I got? Got me a new boat. Gonna be sailing it down the creek before too long. But before I do that, we're gonna go out front and watch Jay make some shingles.
The handiwork of the men and women at the home place is always a sight to behold, and they'll take you on a journey back in time you won't soon forget. I hope you've enjoyed our little tour, and I also hope that you'll be planning a trip sometime soon to come see us here in the hills of Tennessee at the 1850s home place.
Lord, won't you hear me when I pray? Lord, won't you take me to a better day? When life was simple here in the hills, hills of Tennessee. No, 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 no,
It doesn't matter if you're a reenactor who loves the smell of black powder in the morning on the battlefield, or a collector who admires the craftsmanship of a well-made weapon of old. Dixie Gun Works has a Pedersoli just for you. And not only does Dixie Gun Works have a warehouse full of Pedersoli reproduction firearms, they have an incredible collection of antique firearms. Inside the pages of their huge catalog, you will find gun parts, shooting accessories, reenactor clothing, camping supplies, and even some big guns if you like to burn a lot of powder. Dixie Gun Works is located in Union City, Tennessee. But for your convenience, visit our online store at www.dixiegunworks.com or call 1-800-238-6785.
The Chevy Silverado Trail Boss. When you have a 2-inch lift, when you have Goodyear Duratrack tires, when you have Rancho shocks and an integrated dual exhaust, when you have all that, the last thing you'll need is a road. The Chevy Silverado Trail Boss, ready to off-road, right from the factory.
Out here, each new day is an opportunity to enjoy what's around you, to take pride in your land, to fire up reasons to be together, to collect new memories, and grow in fresh ways. You live life out here to the fullest. So in more than 1,900 communities, we're here with everything you need to bring on the new day, and with the services that make shopping easier than ever. Tractor Supply, everything you need for life out here.
I'm here today at the Meadows Hotel with Jeff Campbell, and we have quite the interesting story. We're going to talk about possibly some ghosts coming up, but right now we want to find out more about the history of the Meadows Hotel. Mr. Campbell, could you tell me a little bit about the place here?
The Meadows Hotel was constructed by Mr. W.W. Meadows, William W. Meadows, and opened with great fanfare in 1901. And Mr. Meadows was quite the entrepreneur and the businessman. He was from a little town called Garland, Tennessee, about 15 miles from here, and he had a small dry goods store. He had gone to college. He was from a middle class, and he had served with distinction in the Confederate Army. And he began his business career. He found out that the railroad main line was coming through Fulton, Kentucky, and so he closed up shop, relocated to Fulton, saying that wherever the railroad went, certainly prosperity would follow.
Right.
So fast forward, in 2016, I was fortunate enough to acquire this old building, and not knowing what I was really going to do with it. And on the day I closed, I walked in, went upstairs, and there were still original rooms intact that hadn't been touched since 1933, when the big fire hit and destroyed most of the building.
But this part was intact.
But this part was still intact, but it had since been turned into an auto parts store.
Okay.
On opening weekend in 2017, we're all here, we're all busy getting ready for the Monday opening, the gala, and my housekeepers were the first to report disturbances within the building.
Some kind of disturbances?
Yeah, disturbances like they would clean a room, it would be perfection, immaculate, just like we had instructed our guests to walk in and see it. They would forget a roll of toilet paper. They'd run down the hall, get the roll of toilet paper, come back, and the room would be in shovels. Duvet covers thrown off the beds, pillows thrown on the floor.
You're kidding.
No. And so they said, Jeff, there's something weird happening in this building. I'm like, oh, that's one of your fellow housekeepers. They're just playing a trick on you.
Sure, that's what you'd think.
Right. I've never had any paranormal experience in my life. So I was like, it's just a joke being played on you, Sarah. And she's like, I don't think so. Well, those occurrences kept happening. And then we would hear footsteps in the hallways upstairs. Particularly at night. my employees who would be here, or if I would be here, we'd hear footsteps up and down the main corridor of the upstairs. And then there were some disturbances and noises and clanging and banging in our kitchen, which is right behind this bar, only late at night. And so I had spoken about it to a few friends and not sure what was going on. And he said, well, I know this lady who's a psychic. Let me bring her by. And I said, okay. So he did. She spent a couple hours here, and she picked up two spirits, Ben and Ann. Wow. Ben was the shoe shine man at the Meadows Hotel for 40 years, working for Mr. Meadows. Wow. And he would walk the halls at night, and if people wanted their shoes shine, they left them out by the door.
He was the man to do it.
He was the man to do it. And he would pick up their shoes, take them and shine them, and then deliver them back by the door before they awoke the next morning. Wow. And she said that Ben was a very distinguished, elderly, African-American gentleman that worked here all of his life and loved the Meadows. And so when he died, his spirit didn't want to leave, and so it stayed.
Right.
Our second spirit, her name is Ann, and her story is completely different. She was from a very prominent white family of the day, one of the founding families of Fulton, grew up in a very large home, and so when she passed, her spirit inhabited the family home.
Right.
In the late 1970s, that old home got in bad shape and was torn down. So her spirit had to find another place to reside. So she came to the only other place where she was happy in her youth, and that was the Meadows Hotel where her debutante ball had been held.
Right.
And so Ann only haunts us, if you will, upstairs. She will not come downstairs. We don't know why. But she's our fit thrower. She throws fits, and she's responsible for the duvet covers and the pillows being thrown in the rooms.
She has the tantrums.
All of this came from the psychic.
Right.
Ben also, to make extra money during Prohibition, it was documented that he would bootleg bourbon out the boiler room door of the back of the Meadows Hotel.
Here? At this location? Wow.
And he loved bourbon. And I can tell you, at one night, I was closing the bar myself.
Okay.
And I took a shot of bourbon.
Right.
And I thought of Ben. And I don't know if it was a joke or if I meant it, but something. And I decided, so I poured a second shot, and I said, Ben, this one's for you. So I locked the bar doors, and I went home. I can tell you the next morning when I came back, the shot glass was empty. Did Ben drink it? It's a mystery we'll never know.
And that's the mystery of the Meadows Hotel.
This is the way chicken was meant to be right here. Fried and crispy.
Y'all never cooked us grilled chicken.
Nah, I didn't know what grilled chicken was till I probably got 30 years old.
Sonic Chicken Slinger.
Some good chicken.
Burger or grilled cheese?
Grilled cheese.
Burger.
I went with crispy tenders and the tots. It's patty. Really fresh. I'm gonna try to chow this thing down before I get to the wrapper. Sonic Wacky Pack.
When I went to State Line Ranch and Home the other day,
Howdy, partner. Stick 'em up.
I got jumped by a couple of desperados, and I chased them all over that huge store. I chased them through the boots and hats, and then I lost them somewhere in the saddles and horse tack.
Reckon you folks ought to know you got a couple of young desperados somewhere loose in your store. Don't know where they got off to, but you do have a nice store. Good seeing y'all.
Come to State Line Ranch and Home in Hazel, Kentucky.
Hey, buddy, why the throwback uniform?
Well, boys, you see, it's to celebrate the glory days, the pride, the passion, the tradition.
Wow, what could be better than wearing a throwback uniform on game day?
How about throwing back a green and gold citrusy sun-drop soda in a throwback bottle while wearing my throwback uniform on game day?
The pride, the passion, the tradition.
Throwback a green and gold sun-drop today.
Every time I eat stuffed crust from Pizza Hut, I play this song. But watch what happens when I play it backwards.
Eat original stuffed crust backwards.
What did you say, Record?
3 toppings, just $11.99.
Amazing. Back it up, 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 back it up. The original stuffed crust, just $11.99, only from Pizza Hut. No one out Pizza Hut. No one, 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 no one.
Some historians that say the American Civil War was the last gentleman's war, and I'm here to tell you, for those who fought it, it was pure hell. Back in the 1950s, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a bill to make the centennial of the Civil War a national event. After that took place in the 1960s, it seemed to be that Civil War reenacting became quite the hobby and quite the passion. But what if I was to tell you that back in the 1800s, that's actually when the first reenactment took place? The American Civil War was one of those type of wars that was very innovative. What I find quite admirable about it is the fact that, well, there was new inventions that came along. Of course, the Henry rifle kind of helped modernize the long arms for the soldiers. But in the artillery world, there was something that happened that was quite remarkable. And believe it or not, everybody's dressed in Union uniforms. But guess what? This particular gun, the Williams gun, it was a Confederate gun. Can you believe that? Mr. Bill Hurd here, he built this rascal. Bill's going to tell you a little bit about the gun and its infamy. And we called it the Cavalry Killer. Bill, tell me about it.
Well, this is a 2-pound Williams gun. It was invented by D.R. Williams in 1861. He was from Covington, Kentucky. He took this to the Confederate Ordnance Department. They commissioned 30 to be made. And that's how many we know for sure were made. But what's unique about this gun, it was the very beginning of the war, and it's a breech loader instead of a muzzle loader. And you load it from the back, and if you'd like to see that process,
sure.
Go ahead and open the breech. The loader would step in with a round.
There, okay.
Rattle, move it forward. Step out.
Step out.
The gunner will close the breech. The capper will place a percussion cap on the vent. You got a cap on it?
I didn't cap it.
All right, I'm going to fire this. Oh, we're going to. Don't move that again. Fire. Now,
Bang.
That was firing the blank in that. They could do that 10 times a minute. Schofield's battery that was with the 4th Kentucky Cavalry, Confederate, had 6 of these. So at 10 rounds per minute per gun, that was 60 rounds per minute. No cavalry could charge them mounted. Very few infantry people could even attack them because the range was about the same as the muskets. Plus the musket was firing 3 times a minute. This was firing 10 times a minute.
So about the only defense would have been a very sharp sharpshooter.
The only defense really for them was overwhelming numbers, or they ran out of ammunition. They could fire 10 rounds a minute until they expended all the ammunition. And hook one horse to it with a set of shafts like a buggy and take it off the field and move with the cavalry then until they could replenish their ammunition.
Well, you never know what we're going to find on History Highway. Mr. Bill Hurd, thank you for building this gun and preserving history.
Thank you,
brother.
I'm Father Murphy, and you're watching History Highway.
Still lots of room, just more to view. Still the big move, just more moving. Still singing, just more in tune. Still hard to find a spot, just easier to park. Still the gang's all here, just less are we there yet. The Chevy family of SUVs, making life's journey just better.
Ancestry.com searches the world's largest online family history resource so you can discover who you came from. And now it's possible to learn your ethnicity with Ancestry DNA. A simple test will tell you your ethnic origins, where your ancestors lived up to 1,000 years ago, and connect you with relatives you didn't know you had. So now there's even more ways to discover, well, you. Go to AncestryDNA.com to order your kit today.
I'm here today with my good friend David Chalters. I guess we've known each other about 15 years.
15 years at least, sir.
And been up and down the reenactment trail and
Yes,
doing living history together. We've even got a couple of ideas on some things we're going to do about George Washington and even Light Horse Harry
Oh, I
Lee.
love that idea,
Yeah,
sir.
we've got some things in the future we're going to spring on you, but for now, you know, Dave, it's kind of interesting. All these years you've been doing Robert E. Lee, and I really want to know why.
Oh, what a great question, and I hope you don't think I'm crazy, but I did not choose to be Robert E. Lee. I feel he chose me, or at least the good Lord, and let me explain that so you don't think I'm too delusional. Years ago, you know, being a veteran, we was honoring a fellow vet who had passed away, and we was wearing green and doing the regular quick shots, you know, fire, 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 when about right here was a young lady, 92 years old, in a wheelchair with her son, and she started yelling, "When's General Lee going to say something? When's that general going to say something?" And her son said, "Mama, General Lee's not here." And she said, "Don't patronize me, I know he is." And after the third shot, the captain, because she was raising some cane, went over to her and said, "Ma'am, I apologize, but General Lee's not here." And she said, "I know he is," and pointed to me. And I stepped out of the ranks and I said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm no General Lee." And she said, "You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You look like him, you should start acting like him." And I'm going, oh my goodness, and I had black hair then, and you know, it was speckled. Well, that happened to me 2 more times. Someone said, "You know, you make a good Lee." And this lady, about 6 months later, who took me under her wing as a child, and when she said something, I did it. I listened. That's absolutely right. And I knew better. And she said, "I'm going to have a little gathering." Said, "You're my keynote speaker." And I said, "What do you want me to speak on?" I said, "You know what, when you get there." Well, I went. She said, "Be there at 6:30. Well, I noticed the event started at 6. But when Mama says something, you come at 6:30 at 6:30. Well, I went, and as soon as I opened the door, she's at the podium. And she said, "Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Robert E. Lee." And I'm looking around, where? And she did this. Oh gosh, it was on the spot, and she did this. And I went up, and Rick, my friend, I can still remember my hands shaking, not knowing what to say, because I was a neonate when it came to Lee. And I went to my knees and said, "God, give me the words." And I spoke for about 15, 20 minutes, not knowing what I said. And as I walked down the audience, and there's about 180 people there, could hear a pin drop. And I'm going, boy, I did terrible. And all of a sudden, when I was about halfway there, everybody gave me a standing ovation. And I went home and I said, prayed about it and said, "Dear God, if you want me to portray this man, let me become this man, his Christian character." And actually, Robert E. Lee brought me back closer to Christ and the things that I do. So,
and if you read his writings, he was very close to Christ.
Oh, very. In everything that he did, you know, God was the center. And that was from his beloved mother, who was a very strong Christian. Rick, it has been an honor and the most humbling experience of my life to represent Robert E. Lee. And it's been a blessing, sir.
If you ever get the opportunity see my good friend David Chaltis as he portrays Robert E. Lee, it will be a blessing to you.
Thank you,
bless
sir.
you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
May
God bless you. Same to you, my friend. Yeah.
It's kind of funny when people say, so you're a reenactor, do you really stay in those tents? Yeah, we really stay in those tents. Matter of fact, that's part of what makes it kind of interesting. Remember one morning, I think it was down at Grand Junction, Tennessee, it got so cold and I woke up the next morning, the water had frozen in my canteen. So yes, we stay in the tents. Been in camp, it's come a snowstorm. Been in camp, it's come sleet, hail, rain, floods, 3 tornadoes. So yes, we camp out in the tents. That's part of what makes it fun, is actually trying to live it like our ancestors lived it. It's the life of a reenactor. This is what it's like to be in camp.
Everybody sing.
Yeah.
Taking requests. If we don't know it, we'll tell you. Check.
We were headed back to the truck and we were walking through the camp here, the artillery camp. It's kind of a neat thing. You don't get a chance to see how they actually roll the rounds, but that's exactly what they're doing. They take Reynolds wrap, any type of aluminum foil. They have a dowel made of wood. Take and wrap the Reynolds wrap around it, makes the cartridge. Then they pour their cannon powder into it, which is a large grain, which makes the nice balloon of smoke. And this is how you do it, but you don't want to smoke, you don't want to have a campfire nearby. Matter of fact, static electricity, you don't want that either, because this is actually a dangerous process. Now, they know what they're doing, so that it's safe. But trust me, you don't want no sparks around here. I had one guy loading some shells, doing shotgun shells, and he threw a cigarette in the ashtray where he had his powder. That's a no-no. Boys, have a good day.
Thank you, too.
This reenactment they've had this weekend, it actually has taken place on the same hallowed ground where it took place about 155 years ago. But they're not going to allow us to have the battles here any longer. This becomes federal property on January 1st of next year. So when that takes place, there'll be no more battles here. The grounds will grow silent once again, and the sounds of the heroes will be silent once again. So come pay them homage here at Mill Springs.
Yeah.